here to look at two very iconic warriors of history, Pancho Villa versus Crazy Horse.
Whenever I look at a matchup, I always want to look at their physique, their psychological makeup, their diet. All of these are very important when it comes to two warriors closely matched up.
I think it's a great matchup. You've got Crazy Horse. American settlers have moved into his territory, and it leads to a flat-out war between him and the U.S. Army. When you look at Pancho Villa, he was a bandit who had to build himself up from nothing, and then collected this incredible following, two of the most wanted men in history. And that's why this is a perfect matchup.
Crazy Horse, the fierce Lakota warrior of the 1870s, whose brilliant battle plans and fearless offensives annihilated General Custer at Little Bighorn. Versus Pancho Villa, the Mexican revolutionary whose guerrilla army destroyed corrupt dictators in the early 20th century and then invaded the United States. Who is deadliest? To find out, the history of war and modern science collide as former Navy SEAL Richard Mac Makowitz dives deep into the tactics of the warriors behind the weapons. Biomedical engineer Jeff D. Malin applies 21st century technology to unlock new data on arsenals of the past. And ER physician Armand Dorian dissects the trauma and reveals the physical and psychological traits that shaped these legends of war. This groundbreaking data will be paired with historical research and entered into an all-new digital combat engine. Two legendary combatants will be resurrected. History will be rewritten. But only one will be crowned deadliest warrior. Welcome to the high-tech battle zone. Our experts prepare to unlock new truths to determine which freedom fighter is deadliest. Crazy Horse, who fought to protect the Lakota Nation from extermination by the U.S. cavalry. Or Pancho Villa, the Robin Hood of the Mexican Revolution, who went from small-town bandit to leader of a 40,000-man rebel army.
For me, every match has to start with a tale of the tape. Age, size, weight, illnesses that they may have. Pancho Villa, 5'10", 170 pounds. Crazy Horse, on the other hand, 5'8", 140 pounds. Then you think about Pancho Villa had rheumatoid arthritis, a severely debilitating disease. Crazy Horse, on the other hand, during his reign, the buffalo almost became extinct. His food supply diminished. He became extremely thin. And these are all crucial X factors that'll be put into the sim.
For me, though, it's the warrior. What is the strategy and tactics they like best? How is their field craft? We're going to be looking at Crazy Horse's hit-and-run tactic against Pancho Villa's El Golpe Terrifico.
Mac, most interesting about this matchup for me is the repeating rifles. You're able to carry more rounds, speeding up your ability to send rounds down range. But we're going to see just how lethal these weapons can be.
The new digital combat engine was created by Robert Daly, a former Green Beret and designer of more than 30 military-based video games, including the Deadliest Warrior game. The combat engine will evaluate weapons data, plus up to 100 X factors that are assigned values based on extensive historical research of each warrior's life, tactics, and psychological profile.
What X factors are going to make the biggest difference to you?
The logistics that both of these warriors had is something that comes into play. Logistics being the supply of the operation. Yep. When you're limited on supplies, you have an issue.
Representing Crazy Horse, his direct descendant and an expert at wielding weapons from horseback, Moses brings plenty.
Crazy Horse would always be the first one into battle, and Crazy Horse would always be the last one to leave.
Joining the fight, Lakota tribesman and decorated former Marine, Delano Blue Eagle.
Crazy Horse is fighting to protect his people and his way of life, and nothing gives you more strength. He was born for warfare.
Crazy Horse grew up as settlers and Great Plains Indian tribes fought for territory. When the U.S. Army slaughtered 85 Indians at the Blue Water Massacre in September 1855, 15-year-old Crazy Horse discovered the carnage. And in that moment, an avenging warrior was born.
It completely broke him on the inside how savage these strangers can be to his people. And after that, there is no way to stop Crazy Horse from waging war on the Bluecoats.
though the U.S. cavalry was much larger and better armed. Crazy Horse's evolving hit-and-run tactics left a bloody trail of soldiers behind him.
Early settlers were used to forming it up on two columns and just blasting away at each other. That was their version of war. But Lakotas are smart. Instead, they're going to hide, move in fast, hit you when you least suspect it, and as they're taking off, another group is coming from this side to do the exact same thing. Total confusion.
The guerrilla warfare innovator Crazy Horse earned his place in combat history when in 1876 he gave General Custer his last stand at Little Bighorn. Can Crazy Horse crush another freedom fighter from the same continent? Páncho Villa, the 20th century military genius of the Mexican Revolution, whose innovative use of quick strike forces and devoted peasant masses defeated much larger government armies. Carrying the flag for Páncho Villa, a marksman in mounted combat and Villa historian, Fernando Vázquez.
The people that hated Pancho Villa were those that were afraid of him. The thing is that more people loved him than hated him. His strategy, his intellect, make him the deadliest warrior.
Joining Fernando, early 20th century firearms expert and great-grandson of one of Villa's generals, Santiago Villalobos.
Pancho Villa, to the Mexican people, is known as the Mexican Robin Hood. He'd take all the riches from the rich landowners and he'd make them sign everything over to the peasants.
Growing up an indentured peon on a Mexican hacienda, Pancho's rage against the wealthy was ignited when his sister was assaulted by the rich landowner.
What set him apart was that he would say, this is wrong, I don't care who you are, you may be rich, you may be powerful, but you are doing wrong, and I'm gonna correct that wrong.
Like Crazy Horse, this childhood tragedy catapulted him to a life of war. When Mexico erupted in revolt against dictators in 1910, Villa organized ordinary peasants into a deadly rebel army.
What made Pancho Villa a great warrior, that he was relentless. He would not stop until the dictators were out of Mexico.
As a scientist, I really love the fact that we're hitting this from all angles. And to me, the more data you have, the more accurate the sim's going to be.
The truth is right there.
So what are we missing? The hard data off the weapons. Let's get to it.
These two Wild West freedom fighters kick off this historic showdown with the best long-range firepower on the frontier, the repeating rifle. When Crazy Horse saw the deadly advantage of firearms, he quickly replaced the traditional bow and arrow with the 1860 Henry. A weapon so prolific, a section of the Little Bighorn battlefield became known as Henry Hill.
Repeating rifles are a big jump in technology. I mean, all of a sudden you're not loading one round at a time and shooting it off. Now you've got more rounds in magazines. Now you got more rounds to throw down range. Moses, tell me about your Henry.
Holds 15 rounds. Union soldiers carried this 1860 Henry into the Civil War, and the Confederate soldiers would say that damn Yankee gun, they would load it on Sunday and shoot at us all week.
It was this barrage of bullets that made repeating rifles so effective in hit-and-run tactics. To demonstrate their firepower, 4 targets are set up 50 yards away, the minimum effective range of these rifles.
Let's do this.
The test will measure the hit percentage of each rifle's magazine. Speed is also a factor. Moses will be timed to see how many of his 15 rounds will hit the targets.
3, 2, 1, go! Nice.
Nice wood.
Oh, nice.
That's
Nice. Nice.
Keep
Are you
firing.
done?
If you got more
No,
rounds, fire 'em.
Still got more rounds.
Jam.
Nice.
There you go. That was a hit.
Yeah.
Bring it home. Bring it home.
Nice.
Done.
Okay, Moses, that was 1 minute, 15 seconds to get off those 15 rounds,
All right.
okay? Let's check out the damage.
This is where your aorta splits off to your kidneys. You hit those renal arteries. When those bleed, your blood pressure is going to drop, and that will be an instant kill.
Targets 2 and 3 are severely wounded but could still fire back.
Slab of meat, this would cleanly go through a human body. Perhaps not a kill shot. If it was chest level, this is an instant kill.
Moses, what worries me about this test is there's 15 rounds in that Henry, and we're only seeing 6 hits. What happened?
4 targets, all 4 of them are hit. That's good enough for me, as long as we stop them.
That gun is susceptible to jamming. I don't believe that this one will jam as easily.
Pancho Villa staked his life on the 1894 model Winchester, a repeating rifle so lethal, it's known as the gun that won the West.
Even though it did not fire the 15 rounds, it was 10. This action could take him through faster, much easier than the other rifle.
With a magazine of 10 rounds, Fernando will have to score more than 4 hits to beat Moses's 40% success rate.
Oh, yeah, I won in the belly there, yeah.
Eso, carnal! Ponle! Sí!
Knock him down. Knock him down.
Done!
Nice!
Yeah!
That's 48 seconds to get those 10 rounds downrange. Nice work, Fernando. Let's go check out the targets.
This is described as a way to decapitate with a bullet. This guy is instantly killed.
Like Crazy Horse's rifle, targets 2 and 3 are not instant kills.
I can see it from here already, the exit wound. You see that ring, size of the bullet, the burn around it. It goes through all the layers, but the back end, you get a much larger wound. This would be a mortal wound, not an instant kill, but it is really nice to look at on actual tissue.
So, 1 instant kill, 3 mortal wounds, but I gotta say, man, only 4 hits.
10 rounds, 4 hits, that's still 40%.
There's a reason why they still make this weapon today. It's still being made. If you ever go into battle, this is the weapon to take with you.
But you know, during that time, disease actually killed more people than either one of these rifles, which has to come into factor and come into play. Correct me if I'm wrong, Crazy Horse just missed the big epidemic with regards to smallpox and then tuberculosis. You want to be ineffective in a battlefield? Try fighting when your lungs are filling up with blood.
For me, what really matters in these kind of tests is precision and lethality. So when you're looking at this right now, as far as precision, it's kind of a wash, right? So it's really going to come down to how the weapons themselves operate, how quickly you can get online, and how you do that.
I'm convinced that this is still a better weapon. You can carry it all day. That's a very heavy weapon to lug around.
The Henry is a heavier rifle, but us Lakota warriors, we hunted buffalo. We didn't sit in some hacienda and had someone feeding us food every day, so we can handle this gun.
You're missing something. Con permiso. Look at the size of these weapons. This weapon is much more maneuverable on horseback.
Coming up, the gunslingers duel from the saddle. Mac discovers the daring battle plans that change the course of history. And Wild West freedom fighters blast across the decades in an epic face-off to determine who is deadliest.
Pancho Villa did not care if he died on the battlefield. The dictators in this government did not care who they ran over. Pancho Villa would lay his life on the line 1,000,000 times to save 1 child, 1 man, 1 woman from oppression.
Pancho Villa, Crazy Horse. 2 of history's most feared freedom fighters terrorized the Old West and rewrote the book on guerrilla warfare.
Crazy Horse may have not invented the guerrilla warfighter tactics, but he was a major contributor to its development today.
Using the element of surprise to hit fast, hit hard, and disappear proves so effective that it's been adopted by nearly every modern-day rebel. From the jungles of Vietnam to the mountains of Afghanistan. Both warriors were master horsemen. The teams will test the accuracy of their rifles from horseback.
Okay, gentlemen, each of you will get 5 rounds. You'll ride down this course shooting these 5 targets. Moses, you'll be going first, so we've got our Fernando target set up here. About the right size. Okay.
First to be tested, the longer, heavier Henry.
Nice. You got it, I think.
There you go.
Wow, he's so fast, bro.
Nice and smooth.
That's what I'm talking about.
Moses scores 3 hits, a broken clavicle, a perforated liver, and an arm wound.
Moses, the thing I saw when I watched you, you actually just trusted the horse to do the horse's job. You didn't fiddle with the reins, you just started committing to the target.
Well, that was one of the biggest things for us as Lakota people. There's a trust between the rider and the horse. You know, there's a brotherhood.
That's great. All right, Fernando, what do you think?
Well, 3 out of 5 is not bad. But with a gun that was made for shooting off horseback, I hope to do better.
Will the shorter, lighter Winchester outshoot the Henry?
Whoa, he's moving. Nice, that was a hit, that was a hit.
Fernando also registers 3 hits.
Okay, let's take
A collapsed lung, grazing tricep wound, and a fractured elbow.
We've got very similar weapons, some advantages, some disadvantages. This one, in my mind, is probably the closest matchup we've seen.
So which long-range weapon takes the edge? The guns are so evenly matched, the decision comes down to which rifle performs better in the heat of battle.
With the Winchester, you know, just working this action, I feel like I can work with my pinky. In fact, I can. And if I go to the Henry, working that action, it's much, much more coarse action. I'm giving my edge to the gun that won the West. That's the Winchester.
This weapon right here, the Henry. Your magazine is exposed right here. You see this?
Yep.
Now, which means if I'm in the field, you know, there's all kinds of brush, debris, dirt, anything that gets in there and starts gumming up this makes this a dead man's gun. Personally, I gotta go Winchester all the way.
The long-range weapons, edge, Panchó Villa for the Winchester repeating rifle. Can Panchó maintain his edge when the warriors fire their mid-range weapons, revolvers? Panchó draws a Bisley Model Colt, a weapon that dealt death to tyrants, 6 bullets at a time.
Colt Bisley, 1894 vintage, excellent gun. It was not military issue for competition for marksmanship, and it became one of Pancho's favorite weapons. Panchó had compromised hands because of the arthritis.
Yeah, Panchó, from my understanding, had rheumatoid arthritis, and that's a severely disabling disease. So with a wider hammer, it'll make a huge difference.
Crazy Horse counters with the 1873 Colt revolver, a gun Lakotas took from dead soldiers to create more dead soldiers.
We have about a 30% longer barrel than what Pánchó Villa used. It was able to give a lot better accuracy. And out there in the plains, accuracy is everything.
Jeff will first measure the potential killing power and speed of each revolver's bullet by firing them into a block of ballistics gel.
We're gonna have this revolver fixed and locked down to this table. This round's gonna move through the crony. We'll get the muzzle velocity of this weapon. Fernando, you're up first.
The test delivers surprising results. The bullet from Pánchó Villa's Bisley passes through cleanly.
I can actually see the permanent cavity draw almost a straight line. There is no real tumbling going on here, and I would not have expected that from a lead round.
All right, let's do this.
How much damage will Crazy Horse's Colt inflict?
Nice! There we go.
The bullet tumbles. In the body, the result would be devastating.
Take a look at the path and take a look how it goes through it pretty straight. And then what happens?
Boom, baby.
Boom, baby is correct. I love this because without having to kill somebody, we're showing you exactly what would happen inside your body. The diameter of that just really widens out. That cavity just becomes huge.
Crazy Horse's Colt got a speed slower than Pánchó Villa's Colt. But what matters is inside the gel. And what I'm seeing here is the temporary cavity of Crazy Horse's Colt is in fact larger. And it realizes the damage inside the target where it needs to be to put the man down.
There's something about slowing that round down just enough. Once it hits that body, you're gonna have more damage in that body.
Coming up, guns blaze as our freedom fighters turn horse thieves.
Oh, I love it.
And after more than a century, Crazy Horse's War Club is resurrected to kill again. It's a battle between two of history's most innovative freedom fighters. Crazy Horse, whose Fierce hit-and-run rage were emboldened by a vision that bullets couldn't kill him. Versus Páncho Villa, the Mexican rebel who raided a U.S. weapons arsenal and killed 17 Americans, launching one of the country's biggest manhunts. In the ballistics test, Crazy Horse's 1873 Colt caused more damage.
Boom, baby.
But how will it match up against Pancho's Colt Bisley when the Warriors turn to horse thievery?
Gentlemen, these warriors were both guerrilla fighters. They had to attain their resources on the run. No government backing here. So how would they resupply with horses?
The Lakota motto is, take the horses from those who cannot protect them because they didn't deserve them, which primarily was the U.S. cavalry.
Well, the way El General would do it, he would ride up to these rich haciendas and basically just take it over. These haciendas had the best horses, but he would distribute all the horses to his men in the army. Whatever was left over, he would give to the people, to the peones.
Great, well, we've got a perfect test set up. Behind me, you'll see 5 targets. You gotta take those guys out with your 6 rounds. The prize, the horse. Don't hit it. Speed is a factor. You will be on the clock, gentlemen. Santiago, are you ready?
Listo!
Viva Villa! Yeah! Nice.
There you go.
Oh, nice shot.
Yeah! Well done.
Santiago spared the horse. In 17 seconds, he scored 5 hits. And how many were lethal?
This is a very nicely placed shot. You're getting that aorta, which is an instant kill. This guy's gonna bleed out in about 20 seconds to a minute.
Kill number 1.
This guy, you actually delivered 2 shots to, but all you really needed was the first one. It went right through the bottom pole of that heart, probably again in 15, 20 seconds, unconscious, dead.
Kill number 2.
Woo!
Santiago adds another mortal wound, a graze, and a complete miss to his tally.
I think when you still have guys that are able to return fire, you're going to have to do more to actually get a better result. It would have been nice if you'd have been able to clean out the rest of the guys and known that you're going to be able to walk out with that horse.
Next, Moses takes aim with Crazy Horse's long-barreled 1873 Colt.
There you go.
Nice!
That's the one. Nice!
Woo! Yeah! Yeah. Nice work.
Moses took 21 seconds and missed the horse.
Okay.
Boom.
This is going straight behind the cheekbone, the zygoma. You're gonna hit the bottom portion of the skull. Instant kill.
Check out the exit wound.
And the exit wound is beautiful. Target number 2, you got your carotid, internal and external jugular. You hit these, you're gonna bleed out. It's almost impossible to control. This is another instant kill.
Moses' next 2 targets revealed 2 non-lethal wounds, saving his best shot for last.
Oh, I love it. That's gonna squirt like a spigot. It's flying in the air, but look at the back. Booyah, right through the spine. You cut through there, you're gonna stop breathing instantly, you're gonna die. Tell me, guys, about Páncho Villa and what he had actually done with regards to medical care for his military.
He tried to prepare for every wounded person that was out there with medical supplies. On some of his trains, they had at least 1 car that was set up as a hospital car, and more people survived because of that.
Without a doubt, it's gotta be an X factor, and it's gotta be factored into the sim.
Páncho Villa's Bisley revolver was faster than Crazy Horse's 1873 Colt. But the 1873 was more accurate. So which gets the edge?
I think the advantages, frankly, go with the Bisley. The thing that's really interesting to me is that the 4440 is the same round that goes in his pistol and goes in his rifle. If I'm going to have to draw this weapon, it's a shorter barrel. I'm going to be able to get this thing up and onto target sooner. I think that wider hammer is going to make a bigger difference for me.
So for me, I'm giving my edge to the 1873. It's giving me more damage in the ballistics gel. As far as when the operator used it, all 5 targets were hit. That speaks volumes for me.
For me, I have to agree with you. I got to go with what caused more mayhem, more trauma. And in the end, it comes down to the Colt 1873.
For me, the edge still stays with the Bisley.
By a vote of 2-1, edge, Crazy Horse for the 1873 Colt. key X factor that will be added to the digital combat engine is battlefield tactics. Mac will analyze one of Pancho Villa's most effective battle plans.
What is Pancho Villa's favorite strategy and tactic?
It is called El Golpe Terrífico, which means the terrific blow, or as I like to call it, the ferocious blow.
What is a perfect example of it?
The Second Battle of Torreon.
All right, we're gonna use the touch table and go there now.
It is March 20th, 1914. It is the middle of the Mexican Revolution.
Pancho's Ballistas take on 10,000 enemy federales at the railroad town of Torreon, the key gateway to Mexico's northern states.
He sends his infantry, and it's pretty much a disaster. He cannot advance. They are outmanned here.
Federales start attacking, and they start dropping artillery on it. People are starting to get wiped out, right?
Exactly. He learns from his mistakes.
He adapts very quickly.
Exactly.
They've exposed their positions. He knows where the artillery pieces are. He wants to surround this to the very best of his ability.
He knows he can't take this position during the day, so he comes at night.
Boom. He's got this one position completely surrounded now.
This is where he launches El Golpe Terrífico.
He attacks and uses the cover of darkness against them, constantly harassing them. These guys aren't getting any sleep.
The Federales, they're getting scared now.
Pancho crushes this position, and this terrific blow becomes this legendary threat anytime Pancho Villa comes into an area.
When a man like Pancho Villa comes along, the people are gonna rally and follow him because he fights for what's right.
Like no one before, Villa rallied peasants to fight for the death, for him and his revolution. Next, Crazy Horse's creative tactics bloody the bluecoats. And Pancho Villa takes his hat
Hack 'em up!
with an everyday tool turned lethal weapon. Crazy Horse, leader of the Lakota resistance, who fought settlers and soldiers, who broke treaties and stole his land. Pancho Villa, warlord of the Mexican Revolution, who invaded the United States to steal weapons for his guerrilla army. In a battle between America's two most wanted rebels, who would win? Each warrior's battlefield tactics will play a crucial role in our 5-on-5 simulated battle.
Crazy Horse had to get creative with his tactics because he didn't have the resources at his disposal to take on the U.S. cavalry.
He is a master at the hit-and-run strategy. Perfect example is the Battle of Rosebud Creek, June 17th, 1876.
In present-day Montana, General Crooks's cavalry encounters a band of Lakota warriors led by Crazy Horse.
What does General Crook do?
He put his men on line up Rosebud Creek.
So he wants to send his men into position where they can lay down a base of fire. But that's exactly what Crazy Horse wants, isn't it?
Yes, communication is obviously breaking down this point because Crazy Horse is coming in with hit-and-run parties.
He wants to draw fire. He wants them to empty out their magazines, correct?
Correct. And as soon as they're done shooting and reloading, the full-on charge comes through.
Crazy Horse heads back, and he attacks from a different direction. He wants to hit, run, all day long. Guys are basically trying to shoot at the Lakota as they're coming through the lines, and they're shooting at each other.
What's happening now is the lines are beginning to fail.
Things are not looking good for General Crook right now. He can't communicate. He can't get more ammo.
No, at this point, the upper hand he thought he had with volume of fire and more men is actually starting to play against him.
There's no way he can reinforce Custer at Little Bighorn. What's he going to do? He's going to start pulling out, right?
Exactly. This battle actually led to Custer's defeat at Little Bighorn a week later.
So, hit and run works.
Precisely.
So, which warrior's battlefield tactics will give him the edge in the combat engine?
Pancho Villa clearly demonstrates he is a force to be reckoned with on a battlefield. But Crazy Horse's use of tactics that are creative, adaptive, his use of terrain against a technologically superior force really shows what he's capable of as a leader.
For the X Factor, battlefield tactics, edge, Crazy Horse. When it was time to move in for the kill, these warriors turned everyday tools into close combat slayers. Crazy Horse leads with the Indian Compemni, a hunting club perfect for bludgeoning bluecoats. To ensure test authenticity, our weapons designer, Dave Baker, has recreated the centuries-old battle club with personal guidance from Lakota tribesmen.
What it is a bauxite head shaped into a two-pointed, almost football shape, and a hole. Into that was fit a choke cherry or native plum shaft. And then the entire thing is wrapped in rawhide and sewn up, creating an incredibly strong and flexible club. When you swing it, it almost takes a whipping effect, which would add a lot of force to that blow.
Okay, Blue, on this test, we've got set up here as a ballistics gel torso. Ballistics gel mimics both the density and viscosity of real human tissue. I will give you 15 seconds to do as much damage on this torso, okay? I want to see headshots, I want to see body shots.
Jeff attaches an orientation sensor to register the weapon's impact velocity.
3, 2, 1, kill it!
Hard, Blue, hard!
Yeah, there you go, boy. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
There you go. Yes, keep going. There he goes.
The Indian Kapemni whips into the gel head and torso at 104 miles per hour.
This head injury, that's real.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to die from a fractured skull. We see that all the time. But if you get a depressed skull fracture, it's an exponential chance that the bleeding inside your brain is actually going to kill you. It's going to cause that herniation. So this is a killing weapon when you strike the skull. Anywhere else, it hurts a lot, but it won't kill.
When you are actually measuring your pace a little bit, we're able to control that a lot better. When you really unloaded, that's when it becomes much more unruly. You have to really regroup and recollect the weapon before you launch it again.
Oh, I'm still not impressed. It took him quite a bit of wax to get the job done. With the bolo knife, it's gonna do a lot more damage, it's gonna be more accurate, and I have the long blade here, which will get the job done.
Getting the job done for generations. The Mexican bolo knife. A peasant's tool turned rebel weapon.
While researching this, I talked with a lot of our vaquero experts and our Páncho Villa experts, and they said this was one of the most common tools carried by the vaqueros or the cowboys in Mexico. This was made out of any kind of steel they could get their hands on, any high carbon steel, buggy springs, knife blades, file blades, and it was hammered into a head-heavy design, which gave it a lot of power on the chop.
Santiago, are you ready?
Listo!
3, 2, 1, hack him up!
Viva Villa!
It's a functional decapitation. The head's not going to fall. The ligament integrity is very difficult to cut through. Having said that, you will be getting it past the significant arteries, the carotids, the jugulars. But let's get to the body trauma here. You're going to go a lot of lacerations that are going to go in right to the rib. So a lot of bleeding, a lot of pain. Eventually, this guy would be in deep trouble from infection, from bleeding, but this itself is not the way you're going to kill this guy. This is the way you're going to kill.
When you look at the surface area, there's just so much killing surface area. Also, it's much harder to break. That's a big factor for me.
Crazy Horse's Indian Kapemni club. Or Páncho Villa's bolo knife. Which close-range weapon gets the edge?
Inya Kapemni, you gotta hit Inya Brainy to actually cause a death.
If you're going to go with something that doesn't break down to something that does break down, what are you going to choose?
And if you're talking about facing that club, if I can get past that rock to get that behind me, close that distance, now I can do something. But if you're facing the bolo knife, there's 14 inches of real dangerous area that I've got to somehow cross. It makes it much harder for me to step in, to get in close. And when you're looking at the club, that thing broke.
Done deal.
For close-range weapons, edge, Páncho Villa. Coming up, the final battle. Crazy Horse, the avenging warrior of the Lakota Nation, whose bloodthirsty slaughter of invading U.S. forces made him the most feared enemy of the Old West, versus Páncho Villa, the rebel who terrorized two nations at once, crushed Mexican tyrants, and provoked a manhunt by 10,000 American troops. Guerrilla fighters unleash their savagery in a showdown for the ages. Who will be the deadliest warrior?
I think Páncho Villa is going to have more resources in the end, but if there's one guy who has a chance of beating Páncho at his game, I think Crazy Horse is the man to do it.
Páncho Villa versus Crazy Horse. Who is deadliest? Our team has completed extensive tests of the lethal arsenals these Wild West warriors will bring to their legendary showdown. For long-range weapons, the Winchester 1894 repeating rifle proved more reliable than Crazy Horse's 1860 Henry. Edge, Páncho Villa. For medium-range weapons, the model 1873 Colt caused more damage than Pancho's Bisley model revolver. Edge, Crazy Horse. For close-range weapons, the bolo knife carved up Crazy Horse's Inya Kapemni war club. Edge, Páncho Villa. Weapons data and over 100 X factors have been fed into the digital combat engine.
We look at X factors like battlefield experience, logistics, tenacity. We look at all the historical data about their battles, their fighting styles, the weapons that they're using. We then rate them on a scale of 1 to 100, with 100 being the ultimate warrior.
For me, logistics is going to play a huge role in this battle.
You know, that's one of the factors that I really like. That Bisley actually shoots the 440, and again, Páncho Villa's rifle also shoots the 440. So when you're talking about operationally in the field, I'm not having to carry a bunch of rounds. I literally take the same round, put it in the weapon, and use it.
Páncho Villa really was dominant in this space. Páncho Villa's X factor for logistics, we rated it an 87. Crazy Horse, because he was foraging, we rated him a 54.
For me, a crucial X factor is disease. Crazy Horse was able to narrowly escape the smallpox and tuberculosis epidemics, but Páncho Villa, we discussed earlier about his rheumatoid arthritis.
Crazy Horse was not affected by these things, so we rated him a 73. On the other hand, Páncho Villa, he did have insomnia. He did have arthritis, so we had to rate him really low and we gave him a 44.
For me, what's really important with the Warriors is tactics. Who sets up the moment the best? Who executes and follows through in that moment? How did you rate them?
Both of these commanders really adapted to the situation, and from tactically, they were extremely sound. So we rated Crazy Horse an 85 versus the 81.
Okay, Rob, we've entered in the X factors. We've got our hard data. Let's run the sim.
Let's go.
It's time to launch a 5-on-5 battle. Crazy Horse and 4 Lakotas take on Páncho Villa and 4 Faístas. Pancho Villa triumphs in the 5,000 simulated battles with 2,684 victories. Pancho's Winchester rifle and bolo knife won the day, while Crazy Horse's 1873 Colt outshot Pancho's Bisley revolver. In the final analysis, the X factor of logistics helped carry Pancho to victory.
Crazy Horse just did not have the supplies that Pancho Villa did. Pancho Villa's logistics were much stronger than Crazy Horse's, who was scavenging mostly off the battlefield. For example, you would go, oh, disease is going to play a major factor, but then you go, oh, but Pancho Villa has a medical supply train.
If you've got the better resource, the better training, and the better medical crew, makes sense, you should win.
Even though Crazy Horse has the heart, I mean, he's got the warrior ethos, it's Pancho Villa that got what he needed to get done on a battlefield. He walked the fine line between bandit and revolutionary. And he found a way to navigate it pretty well, and I mean, he's a national hero now.
Next Wednesday, Deadliest Warrior goes live with an unprecedented season finale event.
This has never been done on television before.
First at 9, Nepal's elite army, the Gurkhas, take on the French Foreign Legion.
Both these guys are near superhuman.
Then at 10, it's the most controversial matchup in Deadliest Warrior history. Vampires versus zombies.
You either fight or you die.
And during the show, join the debate as the cast answers your Twitter questions live and makes a huge announcement.
Now we're talking.
The Deadliest Warrior live season finale event next Wednesday starting at 9 on Spike.